Hi Mayur, how are you? Hello.
Yeah, hi. Um, Hello.
Yeah, am I audible, Mayur?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So can you tell me something about yourself?
So, myself is Mayur Sen, and I am basically from Jharkhand. And if I talk about my educational qualifications, so like I have completed my graduation and post-graduation from DAVV Indore. And if I talk about my technical expertise, so I'm having around 4.8 years of experience in manual testing as well as API testing as well as in database testing. So,
Mm,
like in my previous company, like I was working as a QC engineer. So, like where my roles and responsibilities was like to attend the daily stand-up call, where I had to give the like status, like what I'm going to do today and what I did yesterday. And apart from that, I did exploratory testing as well as usability testing. And I also worked on the Postman to validate the APIs, like whether I'm getting the proper response or not, like whether the status code is correctly getting me the correct response or not. So that was my main task as compared to my technical qualification.
okay, great. Let's say in the sync up call, it was decided that
Okay.
you would be working on the P1 task, right? One task is there, P1, any task you can assume. After sync up
Yeah.
call is completed, after 1 hour of sync up call, you came to know that you have to work on some other P2 task. Then what will you do?
Okay. Okay.
Will you work on P2 task or will you work on P1 task?
Like my first priority would be if the issue is like showstopper or blocker issue. So my first priority would be to complete that given task, like whether it is affecting my application or not. So my main responsibility is to complete that given task. And after discussing with my project managers or business analyst, then
Mm,
I'll complete my second task.
mhm. Right. So this is important. Whenever you get
Yeah.
two tasks, right? For example, you
Okay.
are already working on one task and you got another task on runtime. So you
Okay.
can discuss this thing with the project manager or with the scrum master or with your leads, and you can come to the conclusion with them. And then you can switch to the other another task. It is very important to keep them updated that you are switching from one task to another, so that task is halfly done. So it needs to be done or it needs to be completed by someone else, right? Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm giving you one scenario. Okay. Let me know once my screen is visible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is visible? Yeah.
Okay. Now there is an application that is given to you for testing, right?
Okay.
What will be your approach? Will you start it? Will you start testing it manually, or will you run automation test scripts first to ensure the application has been tested properly? You have both the things available with you, right?
So in this scenario, my first approach would be to conduct manual testing first. Like I would test like all the like whether the build is stable or not.
Mm.
So my first approach would be to conduct manual testing. Like after doing manual testing, regression testing a lot of time, then I would move towards to the automation part.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. So in this case or in this scenario, what you can do is you can test it manually on a very high level, right? You don't need to do deep level testing. You just need to test it on a high level, one round of smoke testing, right? And then you can keep your automation test scripts to run because you already have automation. You don't need to waste your time in manual testing. For example, there is a functionality in which you have to upload 100 kinds of files, right? So just
Okay.
test with
Yeah.
one file manually and then put the automation suite for another 9900 files, right? It is
Yeah.
important to make sure that before running the automation you are testing it first manually, which you told very rightly, but on a very high level you have to do, because you have to be productive for your own task also, and for the scripts which are already available with you from the automation perspective, it's important that you run those automation scripts, right?
Okay.
But one round of manual testing first on a very high level and then go for automation. right? So this will be your approach. Okay. Okay, can you tell me the different reasons why testing is blocked in a software project, in a software or any application? Any different reasons that you have faced so far?
Yeah, telling like testing is blocked.
Yeah, you're not able to test at all.
So like in sometimes like what happens like if the requirement is not clear, like if we are not able to understand the requirement, then in that case we are not able to test it thoroughly because if the requirement will be clear, then we can conduct our testing. But if the requirement is not clear, then we have to face a lot of challenges like what kind of testing would be performed and which type of testing we should mainly focus on. So
Okay.
these type of challenges I face.
So let's say if you have the requirement also, those things are also clear
Yes.
with you, then what are the different things that can block your testing?
Like I would say like proper communication, if there is a communication gap with the development team or project managers. So like in that case, like if
Okay, so whenever you will receive the build or whenever release is done, you will have release notes
okay,
in the email. You will come to know what are the tickets, those are fixed, what are the functionality enhancements that they have pushed in this particular build. So hardly there are any chances of communication gap in these cases. Not an issue at all, right? Any other reason?
not able to, can you give me the,
Yeah, no worries. So this is
yeah,
a mock interview. So if this
okay,
question is asked to you in a real-time interview, then you can answer in this way. See, my screen is visible, right?
yeah,
So environment itself is not available. Test data is not ready. Required testers who are supposed to do testing, they are not available. Maybe they are on sick leave or they are working on some other project, right? Initial phase of testing itself is not completed, right? You're not able to access that application. You're not able to access the VM or Citrix environment where that application is hosted, right? System issues are there. Then integration issues, performance issues are there. The pages are not itself getting loaded in the QA environment, the software unavailability or hardware unavailability, incomplete code. So all these are possible reasons because of which the testing can be blocked, right? So these are the possible reasons. Okay, fine. Now let's say you received the requirement, right? You have received the functional requirements of the application that needs to be tested. Then what are the next steps that you will do?
yeah. So after receiving the requirement, so my first priority would be to make a test plan, like which type of testing should be there and what are the entry and exit criteria of test environment. So these type of things I will include in my test plan. And after that, I will start writing my test cases. So all the test cases, I will, after writing the test cases, then I will review those test cases with my test lead. And
Mhm,
after the reviewing, then I will start executing of the test cases. And like if any defect occurs, then I will log those issues in the respective tool like Jira or Azure DevOps.
mhm.
So that would be my next approach after receiving the requirement.
Okay. So after receiving the requirement, you will check first of all those test cases are available with you or not,
Yeah,
right? Then let's say if the test cases are available, then the next thing will be which are the missing test cases or what is the test case coverage you are having. Maybe it might happen
okay,
you have the test cases for 8 out of 10 acceptance criteria
Okay.
mentioned in the requirement, right? Then for those two other test cases, for those two other requirements, you will add the test cases, right? And then you will decide whether those are non-functional test cases or those are functional. Again, all 1 to 10 are functional or non-functional, maybe API level or maybe database level, right? So then
Okay.
you will come to the testing.
Okay.
Okay, now what is the importance of test plan?
Yeah, so like the importance of test plan is like first of all, test plan is a document like which derives like what kind of testing activities we have to be conducted. Like so, it includes a lot of things like objective, scope, approach, deliverables, entry and exit criteria, test environment. So with the help of test plan, we can identify like what kind of testing activities we have done and when our testing activities is going to be completed and in
Hmm.
what and all environments we have tested our application. So
Right,
that is
right.
the necessity of making the test plan.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what is the difference between test plan and test strategy?
Okay. So basically, test plan, test strategies is conducted at the project level, and
Mm,
test plan is basically conducted at the project level, and
mm,
test strategy I think is conducted at the organizational level.
mm,
And test strategy can be different for various type of projects, but test plan will be same for multiple projects.
mm,
So this is the high definition between test plan and test strategies. If any other differences you can tell me, like it would be good.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I think that is fine. So test plan and test strategy both are important. Okay, now tell me one thing. Can we change the test plan or can we change the test strategy once it has been created or once it has been defined?
Yeah, we can like as per the coordination with the client, then we can change in our, if we want to change that, we can change in the test plan. And in test strategy we can also change, like if in future, like if there is a scope of automation, then
Mm,
we can also define in that in our test strategy, like after successfully completion of manual testing, then we have to do the automation as well. So we
mm.
can change
Right, right. See, test plan can change, test strategy cannot be changed, right? Test planning is done to determine possible issues and what are the dependencies in order to identify the risk, right? It again, test plan, as you have mentioned, it is carried out by a QA manager, or you can say a test lead. It will describe how to test, when to test, and who will test and what to test, right? While test strategy is actually a set of guidelines, it includes uh, the design and the determines, and it includes how testing needs to be done, right? So that is test strategy. Again, you will see components of test plan, test strategy, that also you can mention in your differences. Like in the test plan, you will have features to be tested, then testing techniques, then testing task, what are the features, pass or fail criteria for them, what is the test schedule. While in test strategy, you will have the objective, you will have scope of the testing, you will have formats of the documentation, what is the testing processes that you are going to get, then the client communication strategy, right? These kind of strategical things will come in the test strategy,
that. Okay.
right? Okay, now okay, I'll ask you one scenario based question. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, visible.
Yeah. So your application production release is scheduled tomorrow, right? And you have 4 critical defects open. Development team has no time to fix those defects. What will be your approach? How will you handle this situation?
So in this case, my first strategies would be like if the development team is not available, then I'll coordinate with my project managers or business analyst who is responsible for that, and I'll inform them like these are the situation I am facing, and and I'll also try to coordinate with the development team, like maybe the whole team, like maybe one or two of members is available for fix those issues. So I'll coordinate with them, and again, if they are not available, then my first strategy would be to tell to my project managers like, and I will also like put my extra hours as well, put my extra time as well to uh, fix those issues.
But you are a tester, right? You won't be able to fix those issues. We will have
Yeah,
to connect with the dev leads. So there are leads in the development team. You will have to connect with them and you will have to ask them,
okay,
how can we
okay,
release
okay.
with this particular defects open, right? So first thing is you are communication. So that is a valid point. You are communicating the
Yeah,
risk, you are communicating the problems to, you are bringing them to the surface. The second thing is not in our hand how those can be fixed. Until unless you have coding knowledge, then you can help them, but
yeah,
still it's a release time. It might happen that because of our fixing, something might break. So let them fix,
exactly.
let them take those decisions. But the good thing is you told the valid thing, that you will communicate with them, you will connect with them, you will collaborate with them. Again, if you connect with one or two developers, right, it's not going to help. You will have to connect with the leads, you will have to connect with the managers, because this is a critical situation, right? The release is just tomorrow, right? What will
So
be
like
the
in this case, my first priority would be to connect with my lead, as you
Hmm,
are saying.
correct?
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah. And second thing is, see, the customers are not aware, the client is not aware that there are four defects. Do you have to tell them? Do you have to release with maybe two issues? You can get it fixed. Two issues, you can get it as a known issue. So this is also one of the another solution that you can, and you have to be very transparent with them. You have to tell them upfront that these four issues are there. Do you want us to
okay,
postpone this release, or do you want it to be released tomorrow itself, or maybe sometime you can buy, right?
okay,
And
okay.
you will have
Yeah,
to collaborate with the dev team with respect to impacted areas. What are the impacted areas? What is the change that they are doing? In which screen the impact would come? Right? So accordingly, you can plan your testing also, right? Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Now you were telling that you are doing API testing. So how do you perform API testing?
So in API testing, basically, like I get the, I was getting the mainly I have done get and post call. So I was getting the URL from the dev team, and I was validating the path of the URL whether it is working or not. And in the post request, like I was sending the JSON body, and whatever the response I have created, so same response I should be get from the server end. So that's how I performed the API testing. And I was also validating the body, various kind of parameters I was validating, like is the URL is correct or not, and whether the response which I'm getting that is correct or not.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of validation I was doing mainly in API.
Okay, so how you are validating whether you are getting proper response or not?
Yeah, so like if it is a client related issue, so like if I get the status code that is 200 or maybe
Mm,
201, then
mm,
in that case I will get to identify that my request is successful. But if I, from the client side, if I get unauthorized or
mm,
bad request or forbidden, then in
mm.
that case I will get to know like my either my URL is not correct, or maybe some authorization issue is there.
Right, right. You were mentioning about authorization methods. So what are the various
Yeah.
authorization methods that are provided by Postman?
Yeah, so there are a lot of authorization are available, like no authorization, basic authorization, digest authorization, OAuth 1.0, OAuth 2.0, and bearer token is also, JWT token is there, auth authentication. So
Mm.
these are the authorization.
Hawk authentication is there, then AWS signature, NTLM authentication is there. Right? So these
Yeah,
are the various authorization options or methods, those are provided by Postman. Now you were telling about GET and POST, which are the other different types of API requests that are supported.
yeah. So like there is a put request as well. There is a delete request is there, and there is a patch is also there. Options is there, head is there. So these are the common HTTP requests
Mm,
which we
right,
generally
then
use while doing it.
correct. Then delete is there, copy is there,
Yeah, copies.
view is there, lock, unlock, link, unlink, right? So these are
Yeah,
the various types of API requests that we support. Okay, now what is
yeah.
the difference between basic authentication and digest? Sorry, what is the difference between basic authorization and digest authorization?
Okay. So like digest authorization is like basic authorization in that we don't pass any kind of token. And in digest authorization, there is a digest authorization is more secure as compared to because it is in encrypted format.
Hmm.
And basic authorization we don't pass any token. So this is the main difference.
Okay. See, if you are asked such kind of question in a real-time interview, then how you can answer is basic authorization in Postman is a technique in which can be used for HTTP user agents like web browsers, right? It will provide you field to enter username and password directly, right? So it gets
Yeah.
associated with the request. While in digest authorization, what happens is the client first sends the request to the API and gets the
Okay.
responses from the server, right? So it's the client server mechanism, right? And it will include a number which is used only once. So only once you can use that particular number, right? If it's a proper value, it is fine. Otherwise, it will give you a 401 unauthorized response, right? So then
And
again, it
digest
is
authorization
encrypted.
is
Yeah,
okay,
please go ahead.
encrypted.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
will
So I
be
was
sent back
okay.
with an encrypted data array. So it will have both
Okay.
username and password, but it will be encrypted. So you won't be able
Okay.
to, yeah. So it's a sensitive data, so accordingly it is encrypting, right? Okay, now can we have same names for global variables in Postman?
No, only unique name is there in the global variable. We can't create the same name.
Mhm. Okay, so let this be an open question for the people who are watching this video. Can we have the same names for the global variables in the Postman? Okay, okay, fine. Okay, now can you tell me the test scenario for a furniture? Let's say you have to test one furniture. So how will you test it?
Yeah.
What
So
are the different
like
test
the high level,
scenarios?
yeah. So like the high level scenario of furniture would be first of all, I I will check the size of the furniture like as per the requirement whether the size is perfectly fine or not as per my requirement, and I will check each and every like the color which I have ordered, so whether that color is I got or not.
Mm,
And apart from that, like I will sit on the furniture and I will check like whether it is there is no any kind of breaking is there or not, so it is working fine or not while sitting. And apart from that, I also I will also stand on the furniture to check the like whether it can uh, uh, gain my load or not. So and apart from that, I also test uh, uh, like whether it is fitting properly, like in my whether I want to fit it, so whether it is fitting or not, and whether I can put some items or not in the furniture, like whatever I want to put. So so likewise, I can test.
mhm. Okay. Now, what kind of database testing you are performing?
Yeah. So in database testing, I was using the select statement to fetch the data from the database, and I used the tool called MySQL.
Mm,
With the help of select query, I was just validating the data whether I'm getting the correct data or not in the response.
right.
And I am
So
and I am aware about joins as well.
joins. Okay. Now, let's say if you have to validate the asset properties in database testing, then how will you
Okay.
validate?
Acid properties, you are
Hmm.
asking?
Yes, asset properties.
Yeah. I have heard the term called acid, but I'm not aware of how to perform the
Mm-hmm.
activities.
Okay. So asset
Yeah.
stands for A stands for,
Atomicity,
yeah,
consistency. I am
consistency,
not sure. D stands for
isolation,
durability.
yeah, and durability. Right. So in isolation, basically, you will it will imply the presence of multiple transactions does not hinder each other, right? So when you do concurrent testing, parallel testing, Then are the transactions happening properly, right? Then atomicity, it will imply that the result of transaction can be either a success or a failure and nothing in between, right? It does not stuck the transaction. Then isolation is, I covered isolation. Then consistency is the database has to remain valid after the completion of the transactions, right? So that consistency needs to be there. Then durability will be committed data would not be lost even after the power failure. So those kind of negative testing, right? So that's how you can do. Okay, now how will you validate whether the database test table has been updated after you enter data from the front end application?
Okay.
So let's say there was a form, you entered data in that form. Now, how will you validate whether the values went properly in the database?
So, like whatever data I have entered with the help of select command, like I will get to know like select star from whatever the table name is there. So in that case, I will get to know like whether the data, because in the response it will give me the result, like the table got created or not, whatever data I have entered. So with the help of select query, I will get to know.
Select
Like
query. And first you will
yeah.
have to connect with the development team also to know which are the functionalities and what are the database tables related to them.
Okay.
Right, so those things are also coming into the picture. Then you will have to hit those queries and you will have to find out that you should get this particular value in the response, the value that you have entered, right? So those kind of things you can tell. Okay, Mayur, I am done with the interview. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do have questions like, can you give me my feedback, like whether I am in which areas I need to improve or what could be the like where I can improve?
Right. So basically in the scenario based question, whenever they are asking you, you have to tell test scenarios for some particular functionality or furniture. Then go in detail level, like functional scenarios, happy path scenarios,
Okay.
negative scenarios,
Okay.
non-functional scenarios, security related things. So those kind of things you should tell, okay, let me tell you functional, let me tell you non-functional. So this kind of things you can tell, and you should elaborate your answer, because this is the time where in your answer they will be identifying what types of testing you know. You have 4+ years of experience. They won't ask you directly questions on what is retesting, what is regression testing, what is smoke testing. They will ask you questions related to that, so they can come to know whether you have knowledge, you have actually worked on those things or not, right? So be elaborative during this things. Then when it comes to Postman API testing, tell them how you are validating the response. So you might be using assertions. There is an option of assertion in Postman where where you can put checkpoints, whether you are getting 200, whether you are getting that particular response body message text, right? So those kind of things you have to tell them. So very real time, very practically you have to tell them, okay, this is a, it's not possible for an end user or a tester to sit there and to check whether 200 okay is coming or not. Maybe at night they have to run the Postman suite, right? So you are not there, so you have put assertions. Your assertions will tell you whether the automation, whether the APIs are working fine or not, right? So those kind of things you can tell.
And one more thing, like these days, not getting proper calls for, I'm applying on a daily basis, but these days not getting proper calls, multiple job portals. So can I start learning automation? Because I have
Yes,
some knowledge on.
definitely. You should.
Okay.
You're already having 4.55 years of experience. You should have automation in your resume. It's very important.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. Yeah, it was nice talking to you, Rakesh.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.